What's going on, everybody? It's Matt, aka the Lumberjack Landlord, for another very important landlord product review. Love that you guys love these. I think I can add a lot of value for you folks because these are the products that we use in our 117 units. This is what we use in flips. This is what we use in our buy and holds. I think that you guys can absolutely unearth value like I do in my properties and create an atmosphere that is actually very well received by prospective tenants. And for those out there that say these finishes don't mean anything, I will put my unit against their unit any time of day in the same area, and I will get more rents, and I will largely have them spend more time there as well. So without further ado, this particular review is about insulation. I know it's not very fun, but it's very important. So we had a lot of questions, Chris, especially for you on the insulation front. So the thing that we're really going for here is something called RValue. That's the insulating value of the insulation that we're using in different homes. Now, there's a bunch of different products out there. I'm here to tell you I've used them all, every single one, and I can share with you the power of picking the right product, value, overall comfort of the home, and what its true decrease in bills is going to be in your house. This is a big component of it. When you have high heat bills, you actually have what's called a bad envelope. Your entire house is like an envelope. And if it's got a weak point, it might be windows. It's probably windows or insulation are your biggest weak points. And so if we can fix those two areas, if you happen to have a unit that you're paying the heat and hot water on, or specifically something in the wintertime where it gets absolutely frigid cold in your area, or it's really hot and you're just trying to keep that cool air in, this can be a huge difference maker for you. One of the things that a lot of people don't account for is it can be in more than just walls. Excuse me, it can be in attics. This is where you can make an absolutely huge difference. So I'm going to start off with a product that I don't want to touch, that I don't have in my hands, and that is your typical pink insulation. Pink insulation, it's the cheapest, it's the easiest to put in when you have open access to things. Here's the only problem with it. Pests, mice, rats, squirrels, chipmunks, they all love that stuff. They love it. They love to rip it apart. They love to make nests in it. They love to make nests with it. So it is a huge problem. And you have no idea that you actually have a problem until you see A, that you have pests, or B, worst of all, if you want to actually spend the time and thermal image your wall. Yeah, thermal image your wall. Now, just so you know, that camera costs about $4,000, $5,000 bucks. So you usually have to hire somebody to come in and thermal image your wall, and then they'll actually find spots where they can see, you know, really hot spots in the cold weather or really warm spots in the warm weather. Because again, it can be, if you're a AC climate or a heating climate, that's really what the difference is. What I would tell you is this: I never, ever, based on what I've seen when we've torn apart and demoed these places, will ever put in pink insulation ever again. It's too much of a home for pests. And without exception, every house that I've ever purchased where we've done a gut rehab on it, we have always found pockets or voids where the insulation was missing because of pests, or they made massive nests in there. We've actually ripped open walls and had them come pouring out of the wall. Yeah, pretty disgusting. So I will never create a hospitable environment for those pests to live in my property. Now, the next step up is the blow-in. The blown-in insulation, which is a hugely dirty and gross job. I can promise you, as I speak, if you've done it before, you are itching now. If you haven't done it before, you should start itching now, because when you go to do that project, you will end up itching for probably a couple of weeks because this stuff still gets past the white Tyvek suit and the respirator that you have to wear when you're doing it. PS, by the way, it is so unbelievably hot doing that stuff. And so you have to make sure you're doing it when it's really cold weather. But here's another big problem. That stuff is absolutely the perfect nest for pests. It's awful. Rats, chipmunks, squirrels, all of them. And they will take it and move it to other places. They'll also nest in it. And then guess what they also like to do in it? Go to the bathroom. It's awesome. So I am hugely not a fan of that stuff. The only time we ever use blown insulation is when we have a wall that's not been taken apart and that we have to port it at the top and at the bottom. And we actually have them pour it and blow it in and then smash it down. That's what's called hard pack. That's hard pack blown in insulation. That's the only time that we ever use that product. But largely, that's why we do guts. Now, when we do those guts, we actually have 3 options that we choose from when it comes to insulation. Guys, I'm just telling you what I've done for 20 years, why my tenants stay, and they also look at their heat bill. They're like, that's the cheapest heat bill I've ever had. Right, because we insulated it properly. That means a couple of things. One is in buildings where I already pay the heat, I'm only saving myself the money. In buildings where I don't pay the heat, that savings is for the tenant, but it gives them the ability to actually get great value out of the unit. And that's why they end up staying with us. Nice remodeled units with good energy ratings. So let's talk about the 3 products that we actually use. The first product that we actually use, and I don't have a full bat of it, but I actually have a small piece. This is called Roxul. This Roxul comes in sections. They're about this far across. What's really cool about it is it comes in 16-inch, I believe 18-inch, but also 24-inch for those older homes that have wider gaps between the studs. So this Roxul product comes in sections. They're bats like this. They're about this thick, and they're about, I think they're about 4 feet tall. And it's awesome. Just measure the distance between your studs. And then, you know, do you need 16, 18, or 24-inch? They come in big, huge packages. I'll hopefully have some links in there. Again, that's not something typically that, you know, we would actually provide links for, but we will for you guys. But again, those big, huge bats, they literally just pressure fit in the walls. They're awesome. And as far as cutting them down and gutting them to size, it's something as simple as a serrated blade. It's that easy to cut and install that stuff. It's absolutely something that DIYers can do themselves. This product is actually made out of spun lava. I mean, if you aren't the most popular person at your next party talking about your spun lava insulation, I don't know what's going to get you there. So this product we absolutely love. Again, comes in bats, a little bit thicker. I just didn't want to bring one in here because it doesn't make you super itchy, but there's still an itch quality to it. It's just nothing like the blown in and nothing like the pink fiberglass insulation because, again, different product. But I highly recommend the Roxul. It's going to be probably a little bit more expensive than your pink insulation. However, not only do they make it in different widths, 16, 18, 24, they also make it in different RValue thicknesses. And so the way that this stuff actually works is you can pick typically an exterior wall is going to be something called R19. That's an insulation value of R19. Then you also have an insulation value of R21. If your city is on newer code sets, then they're likely going to require the R21, which again, Roxul makes. And then they have other different products for different uses. The other one that they actually utilize is one for attics. This attic insulation, you can actually put it on the top of your ceiling, right? In between the joists on the top of your ceiling. You can install it there. But what that does is that leaves you what's called unconditioned space in the rest of the attic. If you wanted to be able to keep the heat more in the attic, then what you do is instead of installing it on the flat, you install it on the roof line. But when you install it on the roof line, typically you're going to have to do some sort of a strapping to keep it in. But again, same rules, measure in between the studs, and that's going to be what your measurement is. The only question is, what is code? Is code R30 where you live, or is code R38? Check with your local towns, make sure you understand what the code is, but that will give you an indication of which one you should get. The R38, as you can imagine, the higher the number, the more insular quality it has. So very good product. I absolutely love it. Anybody can install this. We've had laborers that we have come over and they just install this stuff. This is not a difficult install. Now we go to the high-end products. The high-end products are foam, spray foam. I actually called a good buddy of mine today and I said, actually it was yesterday, and I said, hey, I want to show my people foam. So this is the foam. This is actually just a sprayed piece of, this is the open cell foam. So when you're getting a quote, you'll hear two terms, easy for me to say. You'll hear open cell foam and closed cell foam. Here's all you really need to know major difference wise between the two products. I'm going to bring up the closed cell foam so you guys can see that too. This is closed cell foam. That's about 1 inch of closed cell foam. Now, when you spray this stuff really kind of layers. And when you spray this stuff, it really kind of hits the wall and then chemical reaction puffs out. Here's the only challenges when the differences between these two. You say, Matt, what's the difference between the two of those foams? Here's what I'll tell you. This stuff has an R value of 4 per inch. So you can't spray this, largely speaking, in an older building that has 2x4 studs, because you won't hit minimum requirement. A 2x4, believe it or not, is actually 3.5 inches tall. So when you look at a wall, it's 3.5 inches out. The problem that you have is 3.5 inches of this, it's R4 per inch. So it's 4, 4, 4, and 2, 14. This is nowhere near the insular quality that you need to meet code. And it is significantly less expensive than the closed cell, but here's how awesome the closed cell is. Let me show you a quick trick. This is open cell. See that? Can push right into it. It's because the cells are open, and therefore they're not nearly as densely packed. So you can do that with open cell foam. This is also something to be aware of, because there are bad contractors out there that will actually mix blends and they will shoot this stuff and then cover it with closed cell. Please be very, very careful of that. Obviously, that's not a reputable company, but there are companies I've actually caught doing that. We had a little issue. It was taken care of. But this is your open cell product. Again, this is about R4 per inch. So great product, but often this stuff is used in newer 2x6 construction because you can get the R value that you need in the walls, or more often it's actually used in ceilings to condition that space. It is less expensive per inch than this stuff, but that's largely how they actually sell this stuff, is per inch. So they take the measurement of the entire surface area and then they multiply it by the number of inches of foam that you actually need to fill the cavity. And then that's what your number is. To give you an idea, the last house that we did was closed cell foam, and that was a pretty significant number. It was about a 2,400 square foot house. And it was about $19,000. And I know the numbers have gone up since then. So that being said, this is the open cell foam. This product is fantastic product. What it really does is it stops the air movement, and that's critical when you're trying to keep a space warm or cool, is you need to stop the penetration of air. And let's face it, piece of plywood with a piece of siding on top of it, then with a piece of, attached to a 2x4, that's not airproof. It just isn't. It's weatherproof, but it's not airproof. So anyway, this is absolutely what you want to be using when it comes to insulation. If you're trying to really cut down on any of that air movement and actually see pretty impressive returns when it comes to the money that you're spending on heat. Now, if you're working on old buildings like I do, anything kind of, I don't know, 30s or 40s, 1930s, 1940s and earlier, this product is an absolute miracle. Real quick introduction to this closed cell foam is, you saw what I did with the open cell. You can't, it's that dense. This stuff is absolutely awesome. This stuff I have sprayed in a number of our projects, and we literally have 15 and 1600 square foot condos that we sprayed with this material that have less than $1,000 a year fuel bill. It's unbelievable. So this closed cell foam, this is about 1 inch of closed cell foam thickness wise. But what's also really awesome about this is not an R4 value. Because the cell is so densely packed, this stuff is actually 7.5 R value. So here's where that's really important. I have an old home. I'm rehabbing it. I need to get that R value to, in my area, it's R21. I need to get R21 into that 3.5 inch gap. The only product on the market that can get me a full R21 plus is this. Sometimes inspectors will say, well, you're improving what was there. And so long as it's better than what was there, that's fine. There are a lot of towns where that's not good enough and they want you to hit new code. Well, unless you want to fur out, which means basically extend the edge of the studs further out so you can use a different type of insulation, but then that is a massive, massive framing job. Unless you're honestly, it's a massive framing job. You don't want to do that work. It's really expensive. You're better off talking to your inspector, understanding what he would find acceptable. But this product, the reason why I love this product so much, yes, it's expensive. But when I'm working on a house that's 100 years old, the problem that you a lot of times have is there might be sags. There might be things that you have to, move up and joist up and put pillars in the basement. That happens. That happens pretty often in a lot of these 100 and some odd year old houses. This improves the structural integrity of your building up to 300%. So I've actually seen buildings that might have a lean to them or a sway to them. We take that sway or that lean out, then we spray it with this. This stuff actually helps keep the shape, which is awesome because not only does it give me the insulation that I need, but it also helps the structural integrity of the building. And I can tell you, this is actually pretty light. But it's because it's so rigid when it dries, and it also is able to cut off that air because it's going in all the gaps where the 2x4 meets the sheathing. It's going into all those gaps. So it really does stop the air movement that you get in the house that is actually largely on those windy days. You're like, I just can't get the house warm enough. I can't keep it warm enough. This is the answer. This is what the right answer is. So I would tell you that from an insulation perspective, this is the best you can ever buy. I put it in, we put it in a number of projects. Obviously, in some cases, it's not economical, especially with the cost of it now, but it is something to consider. So if I'm putting in insulation and I'm not opening up a wall, I'm probably going hard pack blown in. I haven't seen enough of the pour cell stuff where they actually poured it and they pour the foam into the wall. I haven't used enough of that yet to give you a fair review of it. So I have done the hard pack. That's worked pretty well. However, we still have had pest issues in the past with pests getting in there, making a bunch of noise, making a nest, and then, clean up on aisle 5, enjoy cleaning up that mess. This stuff is phenomenal though. And so where the pests won't eat the Roxul, and they also won't make nests in the Roxul because they can't actually eat it. This stuff is much the same. If they eat this, they can't digest it. They'll die. Now, I don't know if that's factually true, but That's what I was told by some of these installers and a couple of pest guys, because until this last year, I had never had pests. So this last year was not a particularly fun year because we had pests in a couple places because of massive construction projects that were nearby that unburrowed all of the lovely ground pests. So when it comes to insulation, this is the stuff that I absolutely recommend. And you can actually get companies to come in and spray it in an existing attic that already is open. And if you're planning on staying there any amount of time, I highly recommend this product because you will probably see payoff in 2 to 3 years on your heat bill. I am blown away. We did that 2,500 square foot house that we did with this product. Our heating bill was never over $1,400 in the dead of winter. And I can tell you previously that house had heating bills in $3,000 to $4,000. So it makes a huge difference. So hopefully, Chris and crew, hopefully this is helpful to you. Hopefully this gave you a good explanation of our values, really what people are looking for. Again, this is our 7.5. So in a 3.5 inch, 2x4, 3.5 inches, which is the coverage. In that scenario, this gives me enough insulation to have this sprayed in the walls. And because it stops the air movement, it's just a huge, huge win when it comes to electrical bills and to heating bills. It's a massive win. So hopefully this helps you guys out. Again, if you have any questions, please let me know. Leave them in the comments below. There's no links for me to attach for to make your guys' job easy, but now you at least have an education in those products. So that way, if you go to call an insulation installer, hear their pitch, hear what they're talking about, but know that I gave you the R values that are actually stated from the manufacturers and based on what my guys in the field actually know, because we've used all of those products. So hopefully this was helpful to you. Please like and subscribe. But most importantly, leave your questions below and I will be happy to answer them so everyone can benefit from it. Thanks so much, guys. This is Lumberjack Landlord. Look forward to our live stream on Sundays and continued product reviews. We have one more product review this week, which is going to be on shark bites, which goes nicely with the cutting tool that I actually demonstrated for you last week. If you have those two things, you have the power of water stopping in your hands. Guys, thanks so much. Have a great week. Look forward to it. Talk to you again soon.